up, mediums? Welcome to the Writer's Journey. Welcome back to the Writer's Journey. This is our second try. Hopefully it'll be even more awesome and epic this time. We're off to a great start, as you can see.
Midlife crisis.
Midlife crisis.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Lauren Moore, and with me is the powerful Kayleen Williams. Tonight we're talking about what it looks like to pick up writing during your midlife crisis, why we do it, and how to navigate it. I've had a John Mayer song stuck in my head all week, the one where he says, "It might be a quarter life crisis, just a stirring in my soul." Maybe you looked in the mirror and thought, how did I get this old and still haven't done X, whatever that is, written that book, jumped off out of a plane, whatever that is. That's what this conversation tonight is about, and one writer's take on how he answered that question. Our guest tonight is Christopher Hopper, author of the hot new space opera series, Ruins of the Galaxy. He's also written The Skyriders, The White Lion Chronicles, The Barenfell Prophecies, co-written with award-winning author Wayne Thomas Batson. Christopher lives with his wife and 4 kids in the Thousand Islands of the northern New York region, and he joins us tonight. So thanks so much for coming on the show, Chris, for the second time tonight. We're so happy to have you.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
So how have you guys been doing now that we're alive?
Yeah, right. Well, after that super epic and deep, revelation and admittance, so many things in my life before, I just don't have the heart to say it again.
Yeah, and I don't know how you could top it. It was so moving.
Gosh, there was just so much that I put out there. I just don't have it. But I do have this for you guys. I have started a super secret project with a co-writer that I found, and we are actually getting all the goodies figured out and dangled, and no ETA on when I can say what it is about, but it is going to be epic.
And I've got something from you too. I'm working on that space opera anthology. I've got about 20 stories, a little over 20 stories to work through, including one of yours, Kayleen. And
you're killing me, man. I turned that in 5 days, whenever we were supposed to turn it in.
I've got something like, it's 176,000 words, and I have a whole lot of them left to read. And then get back to the authors on August 1st. Yes.
All right. August 1st, people. Hold your space cowboy caps and gotta wait till then.
Yes. Yeah, it's coming up, but I'm excited to read the stories. They're growing great so far. So really enjoying it. Chris, what's up with you?
Well, today, this episode could not have happened at a cooler point in the year for me. Today, actually, I signed a 9-book deal with Podium Publishing for Ruins of the Galaxy.
That's awesome!
Amazing!
9 books.
Thank you.
That can pay for a lot of meals for 4 kids.
It definitely can. My wife was pretty excited. And this is actually something we'll get into a little while, but my new co-author, Mr. J.N. Chaney, big shout out to him. We just completed a new book this week as well. So it's been momentous. It's been a really, pretty, I'll say it this way, because we're talking about midlife crisis, a beautiful end to a very dark season.
Wow, that's tantalizing. You didn't say that in the last recording.
Yeah, that was even up in the game, man.
Hey, we got to try a little better. Come on.
See, and then that's where your editing, your work, can make it even better. Oh, yeah,
Sure.
I'd put that in there. Okay.
That's true. I dig that. Nice one. All right. So, Chris, your bio says you were raised by music producers. Mm-hmm. Your first job ever was as a drummer in a recording studio at the age of 10. You toured in bands across Europe and the US, wrote and released albums, started businesses, wrote and published books, did the pastor life for a while, and now you're making yourself again as an author. So lots of deciding to transform yourself and taking a big risk, jumping into something new, and you've got a family, and a lot of us were in a similar position, similar boat, so we're curious about how you did that. But what we really want to know is, did you really get to meet Phil Keaggy, considered one of the best guitarists in the world? Did that happen?
Yes, it did happen. My dad, aside from many wonderful things that he is, he was a drummer for CBS Studios in Manhattan, and he got to play in the studios with amazing people. He was there with Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd and Janis Joplin, but he worked with Phil Keaggy as his not only a drummer but a producer in the 70s and into the early 80s. So we kind of grew up with Phil. So he's Uncle Phil to us.
Nice.
Which is pretty cool. And he's just an outstanding human being, as well as obviously the phenomenal guitar player. So
yeah, I've gone to a couple concerts and he just sits on stage, usually just like him and his guitar on stage. And he just tells stories with his fingers. The songs that he plays, he comes up with on the spot. He looks like an interesting person, a storyteller, even as a musician, and a real sweetheart too.
Yeah, he is. He is everything. What you see on stage is who he is in real life. And actually, I just thought of something. If you ask Phil or you talk to him about, man, you are phenomenal, he usually replies with, yeah, but I'm working to be better. And he doesn't say it from an egotistical standpoint. He genuinely wants to be a better guitar player every day. And I'm like, man, that is so inspiring. So may we have those same kinds of responses, you know.
Yeah, that needs to be your every day. So our topic tonight is writing through a midlife crisis, or maybe writing as your midlife crisis. Anna Johnson asks, so what is a midlife crisis anyway?
Yes. What is that obsession with buying a Ferrari? What is that? So it's interesting because I think, that's the cliche, isn't it? That you hit a wall and you just, you just freak out. But I don't really believe that does service to the human heart. Richard Rohr, who's a wonderful author, he's in his 80s now. He actually described this transition, this midlife crisis, as saying that the first half of our lives are building the container. And we're trying to figure out who we are, what our title is. Are we going to have a spouse? If we have that, are we going to have kids? Are we going to have a home or an apartment? What's my career path? We build this container, but we never actually give a lot of thought to what goes in it. It's more just a product of our circumstances. We're kind of, bumping into furniture in the middle of the night and hoping that we don't break our toe. And then you reach this point where the container's built and you can't really build it anymore. You're faced with a secondary decision, which is, what do I put in this container now? And a lot of times we find there's stuff in it that we didn't want there in the first place. And we look inside and we go, yeah, but there's other things I want to be in there that aren't there. And so we are faced with this dilemma of now having to make decisions that we have never had to make in our lives, which is actively pursuing what we, not what other people want, not what we're supposed to want, not what we're expected to want, but what do we actually want to be in the container of our lives? And that can, if we are not led well through the process, can be very tumultuous, fill us with a lot of, at least with me, a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, fear, things I never ever faced as a Enneagram 7 enthusiast who just thinks the whole world is my playground every day. I hit this proverbial wall, and I didn't want to buy a Ferrari. It was more like, oh crap, now what?
This wasn't what I signed up for.
Yeah. So I think that's how I would answer Anna's question. Is more of it's a transition in which the human heart is really looking for, what do I want to be in my life, not just what am I a product of by circumstance.
Right.
That's an amazing definition, by the way. I just want to.
Oh.
Taking active control of your life rather than being kind of passively swept along.
Yeah. It's almost like the crisis comes in because you don't know what that thing is. So it's like you're in a sense of panic, you're in that anxiety because you need to do something, you don't know what it is, then you go buy a Ferrari.
Yeah, I think that the problem with glass ceilings is that you can't see them. And your face is mashed up against them and you feel this pressure from underneath you, but you're like, I can't go any higher, everybody, unless something breaks. and learning how to break things well, I think is part of this transition that we really are underserved in our culture. We don't talk about this a lot. We just have sitcoms that poke fun at it, and again, just go buy stuff. That doesn't adequately describe the human experience. By the way, just a little future note that I do plan on writing on this subject probably next year in a nonfiction work. So
very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got lots of stories to tell for sure.
Yeah.
So most of us, our glass ceiling would be writing. You know, we get to that point where we've got our life built up or not built up. We get to maybe a certain age and we say, why haven't I written that book yet? I've been telling myself I was going to write that book. Or maybe we've been writing books, but we haven't seen big success. And we're like, why hasn't this happened yet? And that's where maybe the panic could set in, or maybe we throw something overboard. So what would that look like in an author's life?
Good question. Well, can I just put it into my life?
Sure. Yeah,
absolutely. That's why you're here, man.
Because answering generically is a little difficult, but I think answering personally might shed light into other people's stories. So if we back up a year from this month right now, we had just come off of tour in Europe with our band. I was just assigned a second campus to oversee with our church. I had some major relational issues in my exterior life that I hadn't processed in my interior life. Situations that some of my very, very close friends and family were going through that just I was helping them through, but wasn't helping myself through. I was being sued by some of the restaurants, businesses that I'd helped oversee. I mean, everything that you could think of to be entering into your 40th year of life to go wrong, aside from my marriage and my kids, which I'm so grateful for. But everything else was really intense, really, really intense. And I felt this inner dissatisfaction with life, but I couldn't put my finger on it. It was just, I was almost, looking back, I was getting numb. And still feeling like, man, I want to write. Like there's something deep inside of me that I feel alive when I sit down at the keyboard, even on the worst day, even when I'm like, like staring at the blank screen and the cursor is just going like this. I still love it. There's something beautiful about it. So my wife, in late September, early October, this is very personal, by the way. This is the first time I'm sharing most of this publicly.
And you're doing it live on the internet for all of
Yeah, fantastic.
This is the only way to do it these days, man.
Right.
Get it off and out there.
And I'm sharing it because I hope it helps somebody. I really do. My wife looked across the pillow at me. We were going to bed one night, and she said, "Hey, babe." I said, "Yeah." And she had that tone like, "Oh, crap." She said, "You're depressed. You're filled with anxiety. And the worst part is you don't even know it. And you need help." And I didn't sleep that night. I mean, that was arguably one of the worst nights of my adult life. Yet, I just told her this 3 nights ago, believe it or not. Those were the words that steered the ship. And had she not said that, I would not be in a healthy place July 2019. Because I'm super intense with everything I do, I one-upped her and I got 2 counselors the next day. I'm like, I'm going to solve this thing. We're going after this thing. But I was really hurting. One of my counselors actually said, "You must have a very, very strong wife," because she knew that she could risk the relationship to say something that direct and still have trust that you would be okay. And I said, "Man, that is the truth, brother." Like, she is an amazing woman. So to my beautiful Jenny, if you're listening or watching, I love you. Thank you. So that began a process of taking into account that container that I had talked about, everything that was built, everything that had kind of surfaced, so much of which were things that A, I had no control over, and B, I didn't like. I mean, it was just like, I don't even want to do that. I don't even like that. And I have to deal with it. And so kind of this emotional cry of, and yet you have all those other voices, right? Because we're so blessed to live in the United States of America, and we, first world problems, totally. Like everywhere I look, I'm in a recording studio tonight, first world problem, and yet there's pain. And I think we do ourselves a disservice when we say, now if you're complaining all the time, this doesn't apply. But if you're trying to be responsible as an adult, like, hey, my toe hurts, but the rest of my body's okay, don't dismiss the toe if it still hurts. I'm glad your body's okay, but your toe hurts. Let's talk about your toe. And that's finally what I had to do, is start to go, okay, my toe hurts. What the frick is wrong with my toe? And let's get health to it. Happened to be my heart, not my toe. And so in that process, actually, Keystroke Medium, you guys played a huge part. And dang, I'm just going to try to get emotional tonight.
We want to hear it.
Midlife crisis. That's what this is what it's all about.
Because Chris, we feel the same way about Keystroke Medium and this group, and the people right now in that chat, and the people on the Facebook group, and the people who comment on our YouTube videos. Like, we feel the exact same way.
Beautiful. Well, all right. So here it goes. So I'm in this place of going, I have loved pastoring 23 years. I have loved every minute. It's the hardest job I've ever done. It's also probably the most rewarding, but very, very difficult. And I love my church. I'm still I'm in my church. The studio is in my church. So we're not going anywhere. I've loved music. I'm in a studio. I still play music. I still write. I'm still supporting my wife in her career. I love everything I've been able to do. However, there was something on the inside that was going, yeah, but you're doing what you should do. And shoulds are dangerous. Don't should on others. Don't let others should on you. And for the love of God, please don't should on yourself. Right? What do you want?
That's a new picture.
There you go. Michael Anderley's session with you guys just a couple months ago. Oh my gosh. Like, I had to pull the car over because I'm freaking out.
We were too.
What mountain are you climbing? Like,
right.
He totally turned us into 360, and like for a second, like, what happened?
I didn't sleep the night either.
To your listeners who are new, viewers, go back and watch that episode. It will change your life, and be honest about the mountain you're climbing. And so, I took a 2-month sabbatical. My staff gave me a 2-month sabbatical. The church gave it to me. I was very grateful for it. I was desperate for it, honestly. And I understand not everybody has that luxury, but it was a gift. And the first week I sat on my couch and I cried. I just sat there and I couldn't even tell you why I was crying, and felt like I didn't even care, snot bubbles and everything. And I think we have those moments where we just have to be honest and go, I don't even know what's going on. But something was happening. Pressure was coming off of my heart. And oddly, I had all this free time because I said I'm going to be off social media. Mm-hmm. I'm only going to respond to 3 friends, and everything else can burn to hell. And I decided, man, I really want to find out about these 2 guys, Nick Cole and Jason Anspach, because they're writing this series that I mow the lawn to, and every commute I'm on, I'm listening to. And I love Galaxy's Edge. I'm a junkie, right?
Me too.
So who are these guys? And so the very first podcast I found was right here. Yeah. Yay. And I listened to that interview, and there was two critical moments. One was when they said, first of all, we're born again Christians, and it's important that our readers know there are certain things we're going to write about and certain things we're not, and that's okay. But that's who we are. So first of all, I was like, wait, you guys are Christian? I never would have known that by how you write. I'm just like blown away. And then I think it was Nick who said, and we don't have any agenda. Literally, we just want to play with our G.I. Joe guys, probably Jason corrected them, our Star Wars action figures, in the backyard in the sandbox and have fun. That is it. Yep. And when Nick said that, I pulled the car over and wept, because I said, I want to do that. I want to do that. I don't want to have an agenda. I don't want to have Trojan horses. that I'm trying to insert into somebody's psyche. I just want to create something fun and beautiful and entertaining. And isn't that kind of godly, actually?
Yeah.
And that was a moment. That was a moment where I made a conscious decision to put something in my container that I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And it's one of the big reasons why I'm actually sitting here with you tonight, kind of freaking out that I get to see you both and talk to you. This is awesome. So
Yeah,
we are both honored that you are here,
Yep.
opening up so much of yourself to rip the pages off this midlife crisis that I feel like a lot of us are going through. We're suffering through some level of it. It's it's in everybody, like right now. I could feel the tension, but we just keep pushing forward. And I think that's one of the important things is you keep pushing forward and be consciously aware that, like you say, you are putting something in that bucket.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, we can talk as much as you want about this, because there's like, I'm still in counseling. I'm still moving through this stuff. And there are a lot of practicals involved with it too. But one of them, and again, I try not to use too much language that's Christianese, because I think Jesus was the most relatable person in the whole history of humanity. And yet the people that he got along most with were the rejects of society. So I consider myself a reject. I consider myself a beggar who's trying to help 1,000 other beggars find some food. Okay, that's it. But one of the things he said was love your neighbor as yourself. We get a lot of love your neighbor in the circles I've traveled in, but we don't talk a whole lot about loving yourself. And I'm actually pretty convinced that we fail at loving our neighbor well because we actually, frankly, don't even know how to love ourselves. And our culture doesn't teach that. And it's something that we're lacking. And so I'm learning, just to be totally honest with everybody watching and listening, I'm learning how to love myself at 40 in ways I've never even thought of. And it's beautiful.
Now, Bill Frisbee on the chat earlier, he said that a midlife crisis is when you climb to the top of your ladder and you realize you've got it set up on the wrong wall. And that kind of hit me. So say you are a parent, you've got kids, and you realize you put your ladder up on the wrong wall. Maybe the wrong career. Now you want to go into writing, and now you realize that to get into writing, you've got to maybe take a financial risk. You've got these little people depending on you. So now you've got a love your neighbor, love yourself kind of dilemma. And for some of us, we just keep on putting the neighbor first. It depends. It depends on where we're coming from. But how do you navigate? And I guess we should tell our viewers, we are not counselors. We're not trained life coaches. This does not constitute life advice.
Well, I was.
I want to know your answer.
He sort of, But
I'm not anymore.
Yeah, we are not trained.
We have an ex-expert. And we are three people in a fantastic conversation, so take with it what you shall.
There it is. So, yeah, this is fantastic. And, this is, again, getting back to, let's talk about practicals. I think, first of all, we have to dispel the myth that the leap is the risk. The leap is the risk, but staying where you are is also risky. We just tend to think of our present place as safe because we know it. But the reality is you can lose your job tomorrow. Somebody in your family can die tomorrow. You can have catastrophic failure in a piece of equipment in your home. You could be foreclosed on. This is very personal. Here we go. Who's listening? The whole world. I had to file bankruptcy at 40 years old. And I'm walking through that right now. And it's been one of the most difficult seasons of my entire life. I mean, you're getting raw tonight, people. But the risk is, let me say it this way. Life is fluid. If you think it's just this static, well, I'm on the wrong wall, dude, forget the right wall or the wrong wall. walls. There's going to be lots of ladders to climb. And whatever you're in, I hate to tell you, but it's going to change. In some way, shape, or form, you are going to experience change. And change always brings with it momentum. So I'm much more concerned of how am I learning to manage momentum and risk, both in my present place as well as my future place, because things are going to change. And I think once that mentality starts to permeate who we are, we become a little more gentle with ourselves and not so rigid. Well, like, this is the only way I can live, and I can't even think or perceive about taking that leap. And so I would just say to everybody, and I'm saying this to myself, like, go easy on yourself. Life is a long road, man. There are lots of walls to climb and lots of ladders to go up and down. So that's kind of the first piece. The second piece is that I would say that the more robust your team is, the more dramatic risks you can take. And I'm going to say that again because I think it's important. The more robust your team is, the more dramatic risks you can take. And I want to preface that statement a little bit because there's a nuance here, which is a lot of people think that their giftedness is the most important thing. So you're a writer. I have to be the best writer, which will then equal attention and readership, which will then equal the deal. And I don't actually think that's true. In fact, I could care less about someone's giftedness within a realm of speaking. And I'm much more concerned about our networks, because our networks are actually where our real weight in our tribe comes from. And it's a network in which your gifts become bettered and you rise again. You rise, you're talking about, hey, I found myself on the top of the wrong wall. Well, if you're on a really big building with lots of ladders and lots of people, you're going to find somebody who's going to help you, and it's going to be mutually beneficial. So don't put as much emphasis on your giftedness, I would say. Put your emphasis on what network am I developing? Who am I associating with? And out of that, I will see my giftedness mature. So back to the statement, the more robust your team, the more dramatic risks you can take. You have to assess, if you're just an individual with not a lot of responsibility, and let's say you have some savings tucked away, then you have the mobility to make certain leaps and certain risks, but at some point your giftedness will wear out. The people who I've seen, and I can say this is true of my own life, who have taken the most risks are those who have strong relationships, whether they're with their spouse, their kids, familial, very, very close-knit friends, that support structure. And we take it for granted. We throw that word around. But really to say, wait, okay, now let's talk about writing. I just went from doing a lot by myself to now working with J.N. Chaney and his 3 main editors, their graphics team, their beta readers, and I'm exposed to a totally new network, all because I was faithful and diligent to work my tail off to write 400,000 words by July of 2019. And part of that is my giftedness, absolutely. But the majority of that is my network. And so networks and the robustness of your team will actually help facilitate, I believe, that leap, that risk. And you start to go, wait a second, you know what? It's a risk to go, and it's a risk to stay. But I'd rather take the risk of going because of the team I have around me. Let's give it a shot.
I completely agree with that. Honestly, if I hadn't stumbled upon Keystroke Medium the way I did, I would not be the writer that I am right now.
Wow.
Because it's because of Keystroke Medium that I pushed myself to submit to every anthology that we randomly decided to start doing. And the first one was fantasy, which is definitely my jam. Freaking busted that one out like no one's business. And then near future, and I'm just like, okay, it's getting a little tougher. Space opera, fuck me with a sock, holy shit, I'm done. And then I think it's like military sci-fi is coming up next. I mean, that one's just gonna freaking blow my mind, but it has pushed my writerly muscles so much. And I'm able to like really do that because I have that support system of everybody in Keystroke Medium, just to even like see them talking and and hear their successes pushes me to keep doing more, you know. And then I submitted to an anthology outside of Keystroke Medium because then I had the confidence, like, I fucking do this shit. You know, people actually like my writing.
Yep.
And I was accepted, and I was just like freaking doing dances all over the place. So yeah, I mean, I agree. Without my tribe, I would not be where I am right now. You know, and then without my family, I would not have found my tribe to be where I am. So it's just, it's all, yeah.
Great point, man. Great application. Thanks for sharing that.
Thanks for being here and letting me share.
Yeah.
Do we have a sponsor read?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. That is a good point. Let me scrolling. So we shall continue with this very deep and heartfelt conversation after an epic show sponsor read. And this episode is brought to you by Lights Over Cloud Lake by Nathan Hystad. Gone Girl meets the X-Files in this sci-fi thriller. Cloud Lake is a hotspot for UFO sightings. Jessica Carver may have encountered one the night she disappeared. This is her story. Reporter Eva Heart is sent to Cloud Lake to write an exposé on flying saucer sightings, a subject she is extremely familiar with. Nearly 20 years ago, Eva, then known as Jessica Carver, went missing, only to appear a week later confused and frightened. A man went to jail for the crime. Now Eva must face demons from her past as she meets both old and new friends along the way. Will her real identity be exposed? Can history truly repeat itself? Join Jessica as she discovers the truth about her childhood in Lights Over Cloud Lake, the newest novel from the author of the best-selling Survivor series. Click! Check it out! And if you are so inclined, purchase.
Yay, Jesse.
Awesome.
All right. Now, earlier you were talking about mitigating risks, and what was the other phrase you used? Something about rolling.
Life being fluid.
Mm-hmm. We'll stick with that. What the question that we have is, what considerations should people look at before making a leap into writing, like from one career to another?
That's a great question. The things that immediately come to mind, and again, that came to mind for me was, like those with families, I have a responsibility to my family. I have a mortgage. I have 4 babies' mouths to feed. I have to make sure the vehicles get repaired, and it's a battle. I mean, and just mind you, I've worked 23 years in nonprofit, so it's even more of a battle because there's no money there. You do it because you love people, but that doesn't necessarily ever turn into a financial success. So honestly, I'm just being very frank with you. I'm very excited to make money writing. And it's happening. It's happening in ways I never could have imagined. I'm very grateful for that. I'm grateful for my wife to be able to do her hair more than once a year. I'll put it that way. It gets real. Sorry, it gets real here.
This is real.
Hey, no, that's an awesome thing. I mean, I remember when my mom, I'm going to get a little real right now, and she might for it, but I'm going to say it anyway. Every 4 to 6 weeks, she went and did her hair, her nails, and had her toes did. And I can't remember the last time she did.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been 10 plus years now. You know,
Yeah.
It's just not been there. We don't have that ability anymore. So for you to be like, for my wife to go do her hair, you know, more than twice a year, that's freaking fantastic. I mean, that's like,
Thank you. Yeah.
You know, why are we living? Well, to go fucking do things that we really want and make us feel good is part of it.
I was talking to the co-founder of IBM once. I had done a gig in Raleigh, North Carolina. Went out to their house afterward for dinner, and it was a stupid house. It was stupid. Anyway, he told me in a very candid moment, he said, you know, Christopher, money isn't everything. He said, but it does make certain things easier. And I appreciated that because, you know, sometimes people, money's not anything. Don't even worry about it. I'm like, that's easy to say because you got money.
Right?
Life is a challenge. And so I think, anyway, all that to say, you need to do due diligence on what it is that this new line of work can pay you if If you're awesome, great. But if you suck, can you still make a living at it? And that's the conversation we don't really want to have, because we don't want to believe we suck. But if you're going to attempt that leap, you need to be honest. And so getting feedback is essential. When I was starting out, I listened to a bunch of Chris Fox. So highly recommend all of his his fiction too, but his nonfiction work for authors. I read all his stuff. And I decided that I was going to, in January, begin to go out to all the groups of the authors that I loved, who are, many of them are friends now, which is crazy. I can't believe I'm even saying that. And I would just lurk on their Facebook pages and then see somebody who was super active, friend request them with my fingers crossed, and then say, hey, would you like to be in my beta readers group? It's super fun. You get to read every chapter I write, like every week, and you get to feed back to me and tell me if I suck. and that took a lot of time, and it was painful. But by the end of February, I had 100 people in this private Facebook group. And I'm asking them, like, hey, I had people leave the group. They're like, you're horrible. I'm like, all right, thanks. That's what I asked you for.
Not my audience.
Yeah. And I learned so much. And what's really cool is a lot of those people are now, I would consider them friends. Some live in, Mauricio lives in Brazil. Matthew lives in Czech Republic. I mean, these people are you were talking about your tribe, Kayleen. They're with me. They're still reading my stuff. I just announced the podium deal on that Facebook group. They're like, Christopher, we knew you could do it. I'm like, thank you. It's all because of you. I love you. But they're a family. And so being honest, getting that feedback, and then I would say doing market research. That would be the third piece, is really trying to get not the fancy frilly answers that everybody throws around, but what actually can I make doing this? And trying to build rapport with people who are further down the field than you. I appreciate it. I think, again, it was something Nick shared. He said, you can't talk to the people that are 5 fields away. They're irrelevant to you. What their advice is in a different league, and it's not actually going to help you. It's probably going to depress you. But what you want to do is talk to the people that are just a little bit further down the field than you, because their advice is going to help inform whether or not, this is my interpretation, whether or not you make the leap or not. And so that stuff is critical. And so I'm much more concerned, not about being friends with the who's who, but being confidants with those who are where I'd like to be a year from now.
So making connections. First off, finding connections of people who can give you the kind of feedback you need about your own writing to help assess you, but also to move you forward, to see where your writing can be improved. And also connections of other authors who are a little bit ahead of you, who can kind of help you find the right way forward from where you're at. Just curious, real quick, what was one of the things you learned about your writing from that beta group?
Oh, man. Lauren, there were so many. Let's see.
Maybe one of the things that changed your fiction the most, or...
What was that, Kayleen?
So I was going to say, while you think about that answer, because I know that has to be tough, I just wanted to add, when you're going for feedback, or maybe even when you weren't expecting feedback, and be it that in reviews or things like that, you need to be open to the fact that they are not personally attacking you. They're not saying that you suck. It's just, this thing that you currently did is kind of smelling like a pile of, unpleasant smells. But if you, sometimes they'll even give advice like, hey, if you just maybe do a couple of this, you can make it start smelling like roses. Or, like for me, the very first critique I ever got was 9 words that actually literally did say that my writing was a pile of cow dung. And I carry it with me everywhere because it was this critique that actually pushed me to
Keeling, your camera went out.
My camera went out? Oh no. What is happening?
Now it's gone.
It's gone. Can you still hear me though?
We can.
You can still hear me? Okay. I'm going to keep talking while I fudge with
Her lights went out. The lights in the room went out.
Okay. The critique was badly written, shallow rehash of trite plots and material.
Wow.
And that was it. That was all he said.
Wow.
But it was those words that made me go, well, why? And then so I took a deep critical look at my writing, and I found why in myself, in my writing, and I made it better. So I'm going to try and figure out why I'm black.
Okay.
Not black, but
no, that's awesome. And I think those kinds of, lines are important, and they do cause us to want to get better. Lauren, to answer your question, I thought of one. So there were several. You're back. You're back. Okay. One of the biggest lessons I learned from one of my beta readers, they're called Recon Alpha Team, rats. So my rat was a guy from New Zealand, Matthew Sampson, and he taught me the valuable lesson that subtext is far more important than the explicit. And he wrote that in a Word document, and I have never, nor will I ever forget that line. It was worth all the work to bring these people together. Those kinds of lines, kind of like what you said, Kayleen, something that stuck with you. But subtext is always more important than the explicit. And so it's J.J. Abrams and his mystery box. Did you ever see that video? Oh my gosh, it's the coolest.
All right, I'm hanging up. I'm up.
All right, we're just gonna quit here, and then
here's the nutshell. Here's the nutshell. He has a box. It's a magic box that he got from his dad as a kid. Has a big question mark on the outside of the box, like one of those Harry Blackwell boxes. I had something similar growing up. Anyway, he has it on camera with him. He has never opened it.
Oh dear.
Never. He's a grown adult male. He has never opened the box, and he explains the story. And he's like, "Now, don't you want to know what's inside?" He goes,
"Yeah, I want to know what's in the box."
And he said, "That is how I write every story that I produce, direct, write, whatever it is. That's how I go. Is I want you to wonder what's in the box." And I'm like, "That's awesome." Yeah. So it's those kinds of lines that go with you. Anyway, that was the answer to the question.
I think you just upped my writerly muscles by 100% right there. It's like, oh god, all of the amazingness is just going to start being even more amazing. Anyway.
Yeah, I dig it. Totally dig it. That's good. Cool.
All right, so
many questions and so little time, but we started late, so I think we can go a little late. Is that all right, Chris?
I'm fine. You take your time. I'm enjoying myself, and I hope it's helpful to, again, at least one person. So I'm good.
All right. So we are kind of already talking, how do you think through the pros and cons of a big life change? We kind of talked about that. This question I was really curious about. After taking lots of big risks throughout your life, going into becoming a pastor, that's a risk. Starting business, that's a risk. Going on tour, that's a risk. Has your perspective on risk-taking changed? And if so, how? What did you learn something new about risk-taking? How to do it, or should you do it, or what?
Yeah. Boy, this is a very subjective question, isn't it? And there's so much context that's important. There's subtext here. And I think the season that you're in as well demands some attention. I'll say it this way, and somebody else asked this in the chat thread of the link that you posted earlier, and I really appreciated. Is Christopher still a type A wild man? Something like that. Probably wild man. Yeah, a little of that in there. I'm actually becoming more of an introvert than I ever have been. I think my wife is becoming more of an extrovert, which is interesting. But I'll say this, my life is becoming simpler. Part of that has to do with the intensity of the situations that brought me to that place of bankruptcy, that brought me to that midlife crisis, that I just was going, I cannot do this. I cannot sustain this level of activity anymore. And when the option was given to me, hey, you can simplify. Do you want it? I said, And I said, I'm learning that in order to have a strong yes, you have to have lots of also strong no's. Without no's to things, your yes doesn't mean anything. And so I'm learning how to say, no, I don't want to do that. And no, that is not for me. Whereas before, everything's an option. Oh, yeah, man, let's talk about it. Yeah, you want to do coffee? Let's talk about it. No, I do not want to have coffee with you. It's not personal. It's just not to you, ladies, anytime. It's just I'm finally being honest with myself about what I want. And one of my friends in a very dark night of the soul back in December called me up and he said, Christopher, I want you to know that your desire to do or not do something is justification enough to do or not do it. So often when I hear people talk, well, I'm not going to do that because, and they list these things as if that's what I needed to hear from them. I don't need to hear those. You just need to tell me you don't want to do it. And I'm good. We just do it to ourselves.
We do. Yeah. Cause that's how I would feel about someone else, right? I'd feel exactly that way about someone. If you don't want it, that's totally fine. It's just data. The data says you don't want to do it. That's okay. But I don't do that to myself. Right. I do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And go ahead.
As I was just saying, I think a lot of that for maybe a lot of people has to do with that unrelenting sense of guilt.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that you are disappointing, letting down, this invisible thing, that you see in the people. Like if you don't go have that coffee with that person, then there's that guilt hanging on you like, oh God, they're going to think X number of things, or, well, if I just did that, then I could go, or whatever it might be. Like sometimes it's doesn't even have a voice. It's just this weight of just like, God, I feel so bad. I'm so sorry. So then you list all of these reasons of, well, no, it's not this. It's just because I have A, B, C, D, and F. So it's really not you, I promise. And yeah. I think letting go of that guilt too is a huge thing that needs to happen.
All right, so I'm gonna riff on that for a second, Kayleen. If anybody listening or watching has not already seen Avengers Endgame, and you are a Marvel fan, shame on you. I don't care. Here we go. There is a scene in that movie that I wept through. My favorite character now of all time is Fat Thor. I love Iron Man. I don't care. I love Fat Thor because Fat Thor was me the day I watched the movie in the theater.
Wow.
And he's having this conversation with his mom, and his mom is like, Thor, be who you are. Stop making excuses. Stop trying to be the person that you're not. And how many times have we heard that? But for whatever reason, that night in that theater, that was me. I'm sitting there like, oh, this is really beautiful. I'm Fat Thor, And at the end, when he's talking to his lieutenant there, and he's like, "Hey, you're a better leader than I am. Like these are your people. You need to lead them." That's how I felt even stepping out of pastoring. Like there are people better than me at this job. I need to go be Fat Thor, and right. So,
wow, you what's the word? Not resurrected, but redeemed. You redeemed Fat Thor for me, because I wasn't sure how to understand it, but that makes so much sense, and I really love that. And maybe I'm starting to relate to Fat Thor too.
You're way prettier. Well, let's put it that. Both of you are way prettier, so don't go too far with the connection.
But that makes a whole lot of sense, though.
Cool. Happy to help.
All right.
So, I was just gonna fill air with my rambling as I tried to also read in my head at the same time for the next.
I love your rambling. Yeah.
So like, okay, yeah. Well, after the break, we've had our break, so I'm gonna scroll, and let's see. I'm just gonna read it. Getting into how you are making your writing career happen right now. We've got a few questions from James S. Aaron. The first one: how do you manage conflicting priorities between all your various pursuits? And do you involve your family?
Man, great question. This goes back actually to the question we just talked about a little bit. I have become, basically, I'll put it this way. My desire is to be a professional communicator in the written word, and in public speaking. That's it. I have lots of other interests. I have lots of other hobbies, but I am trying to distill things down to the one thing, to be a professional communicator. It is so refreshing. Interesting, if you look at the Enneagram for the 7, the enthusiast, they think they're most happy when they're doing a little of everything, but they're actually most happy when they're excellent at one thing. And it has allowed me now, again, those yeses and nos that I was talking about, it has allowed me now to begin to say no to things that I normally would be distracted and enticed to say yes to. I'll give you a great example. I was toying with the idea of narrating my own books. All right. Because I don't have 10 grand to go ask R.C. Bray to narrate yet. And oddly enough, he did. I recorded a chapter, sent it out to a couple people. R.C. Bray actually wrote me and gave me some great tips. And I was like, oh, this is a sign. I am supposed to narrate my books. The great R.C. Bray communicated with me. And at the same time, I'm going, wait a second. Is that really what you want to do? You can do it. R.C. Bray said you had a great voice and your fans are giving you pointers and you have the studio. You can set up everything. You can do this. But is that what I really want to do? And so I am learning to become more brutally honest with myself and kill my darlings, whether they're my words or whether they're my behaviors or activities, and be true to the first thing I set out to do, which is to be a great communicator. And so I said no to that. That was 3 weeks ago that I made the decision. I took down the microphone. I took the little console that I had. I got Pro Tools off my laptop. I put everything back in the studio, and I said, I'm not doing that. Wouldn't you know, less than 3 weeks later, I signed with Podium Publishing.
Freaking clouds open up, and everything's like, and you have reached the next pass. Because it's a choice for you. That's amazing. I love it. I call that Cosmos, and I just lost the word, but it's, yeah. Never mind. I lost it. Gone.
I was down.
It's amazing. It's an amazing feeling.
The universe smiles on you.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
We already did the type A question. That was another awesome James S. Aaron question. Oh, wait, involve your family. Let's go back to that. Can we go back to that?
Yeah. Oh, this is huge. Oh my gosh, great point. Don't make unilateral decisions. Don't make unilateral decisions. Involve your team. If you don't have anybody to ask, make a new friend. Hopefully they're smarter than you. But I've learned from very, very good leaders. My parents, a lot of the bosses that I've had, and every one of them has always said that they are the weakest person on their team. They just happen to be good at roping everyone in. And I so love that. I've been a part of a team for the last 15 years in which I'm a total maverick. And I think many leaders would be intimidated by my capacities. However, my boss, my senior pastor, was never threatened by me. And he just saw that I wanted to be a part of something bigger than myself. And I wanted to do great things in the world. And so he would just let me go. Now, there was direction, there was correction, there was all the healthy things that are involved with relationships and organizational development. But there was this sense of do your thing because of the safety and security and trust in that team. And so one of the things I see is people who make unilateral decisions. Oh, it's terrible. Like some people see that statement as a threat. I see it as total freedom. Because I'm not just using my eyes, my binoculars to see downrange. I'm triangulating. And so I'm getting my wife's opinion. And she's very wise and has great resources. I have a best buddy who lives up here about 2 miles away. I'm getting his binoculars on something. In fact, when this whole deal came through with J.N. Chaney, I drove over to his house. I'm like, buddy, talk to me. I need to make a decision here. I have an offer on the table. It's big. I don't want to mess this up. What do you think? And he gave me the most sage wisdom about connecting with new people and growing your network. Yeah. And so I've a personal mantra that I will not make unilateral decisions. I will make decisions with multiple sets of eyes looking downrange.
I really like that because so often we get stuck in our own little mental trench. You know, we think the same thoughts, we have the same opinions, and you know, whatever it is, kind of day in, day out, and it just kind of digs this like trench in our brain. This is how I see it. I'm saying it out loud. But when you get that outside feedback and kind of like jump the tracks a little bit and give you another way of looking at the subject, and I think you can arrive at a clearer picture of what's actually going on, or at least that other opinion can help you reassess your own, and maybe you still go forward with your original plan, but now you've had that outside feedback to kind of temper it.
Yeah.
So that's a really good point. I like that you've come to that determination with yourself.
Thank you. Thank you.
So on the question of your family, James continues, how do you approach a high output life, running businesses, ministry, writing, with 4 kids, without having the crisis come knocking again?
Mm-hmm. Great question. Again, I'm going back to heavy yeses and nos. Because I am trying to simplify my life. Wow. All right, we're going deep. Today, I said goodbye to my boat.
What?
I've had a sailboat in our family for, what is up with the, Kayleen, the cosmos, planets are aligning for this stupid night.
They are.
Oh
You're welcome.
gosh.
It needs to happen. This is like your final pass. It's all culminating.
It really is. So literally today, this morning, I turned into my boat in lieu of payment, surrendered it because of the bankruptcy. And it's been a beautiful sailboat in our family for 26 years. Love it. And I patted the hull after I cleaned her all out and said, thank you. You've given me some beautiful memories. Thank you. You did great. And drove away. And that was bittersweet. My friend Wayne Batson says divine melancholy. Because on one side, it's the end of something. And yet, it's never the stuff, right? Stuff, we don't own stuff. Stuff owns us. And so to be able to say goodbye to the stuff, but the memories, the pictures we have, the stories we have on that boat go with us. And so there's something really beautiful about the end of seasons and the simplicity of life. So to get back to James's question, I am enjoying my world getting smaller and smaller. I am enjoying just trying to be a good friend to 2 or 3 people, not 4,000. I'm enjoying being able to say yes and no to lunch invitations, because before my vocation dictated I had to say yes. And granted, I loved it. I'm not saying that was a toil. I'm just saying that I'm in such a new season where things are contracting, in the hope that this will not repeat itself. And I'm now building margin around when I work, when I don't. One of the things I need to do soon is to build an office somewhere on our property, because I still have I'm learning how to work at home. It's very, very difficult. I had an office to go to, and when I left, that was it. But now the laptop's out, sitting over there on the table, and Kayleen just emailed me or instant messaged me, and I want to check it out because there's going to be something going on. And it's the fear of missing out, right? So one of my friends said, just turn off your laptop. It's a simple thing, but just turn it off, and it will actually help you disconnect if you have a home office. And I'm finding that to be true. So learning how to create those sacred spaces for both work and family and create isolation is my next step personally. But the big moves have been, this is the thing, and this is the only thing that I want to really focus on. Everything else is going to fade away.
Yeah. So you say that stuff about how, you don't want stuff to own you, and how you need to be able to let it go to kind of be free. If you had not let go of the boat today, I can see how someone watching this video might kind of find the words to be hollow. They could be like, Chris, you've done so much. You've seen so much success. You're doing great in your writing career right now. Like, you're killing it. You're on an upward trajectory. We all see it. But you're in the trenches right now. right now in this moment.
Mm.
So I think God's behind it.
Mm.
And I don't say that flippantly. And I think that's really cool. And I'm glad that we are able to record it.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I don't want to interrupt you. Am I interrupting you? No. Okay.
Really, I mean, I haven't ever had a boat, right? I've never had these things.
Mm-hmm.
So for me to say, oh yeah, like don't let stuff own you, I can say that, but I haven't had the experience of being there in the first place. So it means a whole lot more coming from you today.
Thanks,
so
Lauren.
I'm glad you shared it.
I'm having a bit of a moment right now. The whole proverbial go buy the Ferrari thing, right? I'm finding more joy in not getting the Ferrari. I'm actually finding more joy in the boat leaving because it is freeing up emotional energy in me that I'm realizing is best served elsewhere. So I think, unfortunately, a lot of times what we're actually pursuing are vain things to satisfy a longing that thing was never actually meant to satisfy. But it's a freedom and a life of simplicity that I'm finding myself hungering for. I don't want it complicated. I've had complicated. I need a break from complicated. I really enjoy simplicity, and I'll leave it at that.
So I do want to add, when you were saying, the seasons, the season that you're in right now, I'm immediately thinking of nature, right? And for a lot of places, there are very distinct 4 seasons. There is a spring, a summer, an autumn, and a winter. But even as the leaves turn colors and fall, even as everything gets cold and the snow covers everything, there is going to come a day where those tiny little green buds on the tips of the trees are going to return. They are going to blossom, and it's going to be magnificent. So no matter where you're at right now, everything you do, even through those hard times, is pushing you and growing you and strengthening you to be an even stronger you. Every year that tree gets bigger and more beautiful through every hardship that it always will have to continuously go through. And being aware of that and conscious of it, and being honest with yourself that I'm going to have to fight through these. I'm going to have to open up and talk to a few people, and I'm going to have to talk to myself. You're going to blossom and be even stronger.
Mm-hmm.
And don't let the crisis beat you.
I imagine you are a very good friend, Kayleen.
Thank you.
Wow, that was worth the whole interview right there.
Well, speaking of getting your money's worth, Dean Floyd in chat, he says, "Here's your non-fic book title for the next year. That ship has sailed." Subtitle: "He's not Thor."
I like it. Thank you, Mr. Floyd. That was beautiful. Yeah, I would say, to those who are watching or listening, I get tunnel vision. I get feeling like the world's caving in on you. I get sleepless nights. I get waking up at 3:30 because you can't sleep and you're just filled with anxiety and you're like, man, I don't know how this is gonna. I don't know how
not even being able to sleep until 3:30 because you're just staring like everything is just.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And no, actually, you know what? There was somebody else asked a question. Christopher, is Christopher into clean sci-fi? I'm going somewhere with this. My answer is no, which I've gotten a lot of criticism, not a lot of criticism, but several people from, I would say, my faith community globally have criticized my writing, which I love. Because, and they asked me, why don't I write clean fiction? And my answer is based upon a very, very simple premise, which is my life isn't clean. And life in general isn't clean. Now, granted, I'm not saying there shouldn't be clean fiction. I think that's wonderful. I'd like my kids to read clean fiction. However, my kids also read my stuff. And in one of my chapters, my 10-year-old and he said, "Hey, Daddy, chapter 30, the very first word is the D word." I'm like, "What word?" He goes, "Damn." And I said, "Okay, who said it?" "Magnus." "And who's Magnus?" "He's a Marine." "Oh yeah, Marines swear. I get it." The point being with all of this is that life is messy. And my Jesus in my Bible got a whole lot of people drunk in the very first miracle that he did. That might not be how you interpret that passage, but that's definitely my theological background says that. He actually swore at the Pharisees when he called them a brood of vipers. We don't know what that means today, but the translation was derogatory. It was really bad language.
At one point, pants was a curse word. Sorry.
Yeah, no. And so I think that we either believe, for me, my theology, my interpretation of Scripture allows me a wide range of abilities to speak to the human experience and all that it entails. And I'm grateful for that gift. I'm grateful I can flow in that. But all this coming back to the point that life is messy. And so if you're in the mess, treat yourself kindly right now. Things will get better. Kayleen just told you that. There is light at the end of the tunnel. But recognize that for whatever stupid reason, failure is a part of success. And you do not reach success without failure. I wish it wasn't that way. I just talked to a buddy who lost his job this week. And he's got a baby on the way. And I'm like, dude, I don't get it. I don't like it for you. And I wish I could fix it all, but I can't. All I can say is at least you don't have to savor the moment, but be present for it, because it will inform your future and it will teach you how to make decisions in ways that give life and redemption that you never could have experienced before.
It was really good advice. I mean, through all of the hardship, and be gentle to yourself. And if you do falter, if things get in your way, don't stop completely. Take a moment, breathe, reevaluate, and keep pressing forward. Because the moment you stop, that's when you stop growing. That's when you stop learning. You're just floating about a bit of space scum, and no one wants to be space scum. Space scum ends up in black holes, and it is not pretty. I have learned way more about black holes than I ever thought I would. Not a good situation. I think. Oh.
No, finish your statement. I had one more thing I wanted to add when you're done.
Nope, I was rambling. You can.
Okay. I think this is important because I was just thinking back to my process. One other piece of advice for people that are in the zone of making the leap. In other words, hey, I'm working my full-time job, but I'm doing this side hustle. Here's something I want to say to that. I would challenge you to look at hard work for seasons, and then also make sure you're looking at seasons of rest and build accountability into that. What did that look like for me? January 1st, I'll put it this way, January 6th, I told my boss, I want to be a full-time writer. The next day, I told my staff. That night, I told my board. And for the next 5 months, I worked 90-hour weeks, sometimes 110-hour weeks. I would work my day job. I'd come home, do the kid thing for 2 or 3 hours, put him to bed, and then I would write till midnight. I'd wake up at 5 a.m. and then write until I had to leave for work. And I did that for 5 months. Wow. It was brutal.
Yeah.
It was absolutely brutal. However, and this is so key, my wife and I sat down and I said, this is the plan. What do you think? Remember, no unilateral decisions.
Right.
And she's like, I'm on board. It's going to mean increased housework for her because I'm not carrying my share of it. I'm pretty egalitarian in our relationship. I'm a Jesus feminist. So she's not the head of the home. I'm not the head of the home. Christ is the head of our home. There's my sermon. Okay. But the point being that we're equals in this. So you're going to have to pick up weight that I normally would carry. I'm going to be out of whack for the kids for a little while. I'm going to be preoccupied. I'm going to be in a different universe.
Quite literally, yes.
And I write in the multiverse. So I'm going to be in a few. universi. And are you okay with that? And she replied, absolutely, especially if you know it's just a season. Aha. And so if you can map those things out, and obviously I knew at the end of June that no matter what, I needed to take a break. I had no clue that J.N. Chaney would be like, you want to do a co-write? And we're going to release the first book, Resonant Sun, in the middle of August. And then he's like, you want to republish Ruins with me? Yes. And now all of a sudden I'm finding this rhythm to life that is now, again, a momentous week. I'm moving into, this will be the last 2 weeks that I am part-time employed anywhere. I'm going to be a full-time writer by the end of August. And thank you. and so if you can try to map those things out, and no matter what, give yourself a break, give yourself some rest. It's much easier to tackle those things with a plan than just saying, I'm gonna work on this indefinitely and hope it pops. No, you're not. You're gonna burn out. Don't do that. Pick a season, work it hard, and then pick another season to rest.
Yeah. J.N. Chaney, he's in the chat right now, and
hey,
Josh, get back to work.
Thanks.
Cracking the whip.
I love it. He's been so good to work for, by the way. I'm telling you, like, so much autonomy, freedom. He has great ideas. He's a genius. He markets like no other. I mean, the guy's a rock star. So I'm learning so much. I would write just to learn from that man. So
yeah, I follow him on Instagram just to see the covers because they're that good.
Yeah. Oh, the covers are so good. I can't wait for you to see them.
Ooh. Future things to look forward to. Loving it. And that's another thing. Have something to look forward to, even if it's, I don't know, being able to go out of town for a special ice cream or something.
Yes.
You know, plan for that. Do it and enjoy it if that's what you want to do. That is.
I agree.
So yeah, we're even over the over of which we were over initially. Did you have any final thoughts, Lauren?
Walt really wants to know what a Jujari's favorite dessert is.
Walt Robillard has been with me since the beginning. This guy is amazing. War hero. That's all I'll say. He'll yell at me if I say anything more. A Jujari is a giant hyena wolf race of very intense, nomadic warriors. They would love congealed human blood tonight if they could.
Which I hear is a great aim to do. So, y'all could have some cake with your ice cream too. I'm down.
Fantastic.
Frozen, like a popsicle, like congealed human blood popsicle, or
yeah, it's like blood pudding.
Okay,
from
blood.
There it is.
There you go.
Jeez. Hey, I do want to say something as we close, though. Something I admired about both of you. You have an uncanny ability to synthesize and distill your guests' points into these bite-sized nuggets. That blows my mind. And I'm not trying to flatter you. I'm being honest. And people that know the show know this is true. They know what I'm saying is true. Somebody could ramble for like 10 minutes, and you're just like, so what you really said was this. I'm like, oh, snap. That was good. So you guys are really good at that.
Yes.
Trying to say is we're amazing.
You're amazing.
Listen, Kayleen. Good job, Kayleen. You really do.
Aw, well, thank you. I'm gonna start blushing. And I do blush. And it happens in my nose. I should probably rub my nose. My nose turns red. Anyway, now that people know that, I'm gonna cover my nose. Thank you so much for coming on. This has been an amazing show. I'm not even gonna read that over there. I'm gonna try and do it without reading it for once. Yeah, this has been so awesome. And I really do hope that at least one piece of nugget hits each person that watches this, whatever it may be, and helps them to either conquer, face, or admit something about themselves that they may have been ignoring. I really do. And that wouldn't have been able to happen without you. You have a beautiful light in you, and thank you for sharing it with us.
Thank you, Kayleen. I really appreciate that. Thank you for the forum and the context to be, honest and share some of this for the very first time publicly. I'm glad it's here. I don't know if I would do it anywhere else, to be honest. So thanks.
So as we normally do, where can our lovely viewers and listeners find you and your work?
Awesome. Thanks. If you check out ruinsofthegalaxy.com, that's the series is being relaunched this Sunday, believe it or not, which is super exciting. I'm on Facebook, and you can find out more on the stuff I'm doing with Jeff on his Renegade Universe Facebook group. So ChristopherHopper.com, but I haven't updated that in a couple months. So yeah, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all those things.
Awesome. Go check him out. Go stalk him like people do secretly in the shadows of the intranets. For Lauren Moore, I am Kayleen Williams. Thank you so much for joining us on your writer's journey and following us down this very needed hole of introspection and understanding. And yeah, we will see you next week to talk about some reading, writing, and everything in between right here on Keystroke Medium's The Writer's Journey. Good night, you guys.